Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from Kman Reviews. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button, and if you have any opinions at all that you would like to share, make sure to leave them down in the comment section. Vince Staples, self-titled. Vince Staples, American rapper, singer, songwriter, one of the most beloved figures active in rap today. Yet I've never really had the time to fully appreciate him. I reviewed his 2017 album Big Fish Theory, which was my second ever review on the channel. Not one I am proud of though. I plan to redux that hopefully soon, but now I figured it was a better time than ever to reintroduce myself to Vince's music with his most recent album of his, which is self-titled. Let's just jump right into it. What are my thoughts on Vince Staples? Let's find out as I review this album track by track. We will start with the singles, with there being two of them. The first being Law of Averages, which definitely took me a few listens to fully warm up to, but now I really enjoyed this one. The main reason this one took me so long was because it gave me massive Earl Sweatshirt Some Rap Songs vibes, and that's an album to this day I've yet to fully comprehend the hype behind. It hasn't worked for me even after so many listens, and this track gave me the same energy in its minimal, yet skeletal instrumental, wobbly synths, crackly ambience, and the higher pitched harmonies. Meanwhile, Vince delivers a fittingly cold performance with detailed and rich lyrics talking about leaving behind the gang life, and those acquaintances who seem to constantly ask for his money. Also, I just love the last lines of the second verse, brilliant wordplay here, and a great song to boot. And the second and final single, the opener Are You With That, is a much more by-the-numbers nostalgic banger, and I am all for this track. This is incredible. The beat especially, I love the wavy, hypnotic synths, steady hi-hat, and those bass thumps. It's an effortless vibe. Vince delivers an infectious flow with his tone oozing the swagger, which only adds to the catchiness already injected by this beat. The song is short though, 2 minutes and 18 seconds, and while I personally would have preferred some kind of bridge or maybe even a third verse, the two verses are just lengthy enough to make the track feel like we're actually getting something, and get something we do with these lyrics, painting Vince's childhood as he idolized the gang life, but now after he's lived it and suffered the experiences firsthand, he's glad to be grounded and out of that scene. Great track, let's see how the rest of the album compares. Now for the rest of the tracks. Sunset Town is another tried and true banger. I love how upfront the bass is especially, but there's also these nuances that are just as noteworthy, like the various background vocals, the plucky acoustics later in the song. It's an immaculate instrumental. Kenny Beats really nailed it here. And Vince matches that tone perfectly, delivering this punchy flow as he highlights death and poverty, harkening back to his gang affiliations, but on the second verse, he kind of brings it back to modern day with a new religious outlook as he moved from street life to stage life, yet still having that paranoia and stress in public even when meeting his own fans. Beautiful song, an album standout. The Shining is the longest cut on this record, yet still only being 2 minutes and 40 seconds, but this is still a pretty good track. The beat is fairly basic, however. The ticking hi-hats are much more front and center. Bass feels a little bit less impactful, along with a wonky key melody in the background. I like Vince's flow on the track. It feels very fluid and smooth. His tone of voice is not the most engaging throughout the track's runtime, though. The monotone, cold-hearted delivery isn't anything offensive, and I'd argue over this beat, it's definitely appropriate. But by the second verse, it kind of became a little bit of a drag. Although the lyrics here are easily a highlight of the track, still painting this violent lifestyle in grim pictures. Literally starting off the first verse with "Don't get murdered," as if it's this instinctive thought first thing in the morning. For what this song is, it definitely works. I just kind of wish it was a little bit more captivating. Taking Trips is easily the weakest out of the first leg in my opinion, and probably on the whole album, so let's just get the positives out of the way first. I really like this beat, which while it still has the same typical bass and hi-hat formula, I love that synth work nestled in the back, rising and falling continuously, adding this entrancing and hypnotic melody to an otherwise bare track. Also, the lyrics aren't terrible, just about reflecting on his life and his upbringing, but they're easily some of the most upfront and simple lyrics on the entire record. Not saying everything has to be this super big brain, triple entendre, but it just feels extremely basic, and that is especially amplified by the performance because, my god, the hook is weak, the flow is extremely weak, Vince just kind of feels like he's only running on like 20% throughout the song. This one just didn't work for me. Pass. The Apple and the Tree is one of two interludes on this album, just barely scraping over a minute long, and it's purely a spoken word passage delivered by Vince's mother, as she describes how she got on a witness stand and lied to the court to protect Vince's father, who was convicted for attempted murder. The crackly clip is laid over this somber acoustic guitar and echoey drums. It's just an interlude, it's fine in the context of the full album, but I'm not going to keep it around. Take Me Home featuring Fouché is another album highlight for me, but frankly I think that's attributed to the fact that there's a guest feature on here, with Fouché delivering a soft, pillowy, comforting chorus as it's surrounded by Vince's hard-hitting, cold, swaggerish verses, which both are really damn good. He's got a nice flow over the Latin-infused acoustic guitar melody, ticking hi-hat and steady bass, as he raps about recollecting all these memories he'd much rather forget about his street life, but yet something keeps gravitating him to keep revisiting these places in his mind. Really like this song. Lil Fade is one of my favorites here. This beat is wonderful. I love the buzzing synth to add this liveliness, along with the groovy bass being spliced with the percussion. Vince is easily the standout here, though. The flow is so smooth and effortless, his tone being a little bit more playful when paired with the beat. Lyrically, the song continues the album's theme of experiencing street life, this time including a little bit more braggadocio with money and just kind of flexing that, yes, he is indeed what he raps about. It just kind of feels like a fun song, and after some of the previous cuts being a little bit one note and sleepy, I will happily take it. Lakewood Maul is the second of those interludes, bordering around the same duration and a very similar style as well, with the same crackly, muted recording over some wavy synths instead of acoustics, just simply speaking up about how in that kind of life, you've always got to be thinking ahead, you never know what could happen. As the narrator says, step away from all the bullshit. Again, just an interlude. And finally, the closer, is another energetic song to end this album, and this one is probably my favorite here, being some of the most exuberant Vince has been on the entire album. The synth work is very glossy, creating this rippling ambience behind the hi-hat and bass. I just adore Vince's delivery here, so charismatic. That little is so sticky and fun. I love how confident the song comes off, which is also displayed in the lyrical content here, mocking the police a little bit, yet still being haunted by paranoia and suspicions. Nevertheless, love this track, an enjoyable ending to this album. Overall, I was a little bit skeptical to this album going in. Seeing the runtime and that admittedly basic album art, I was worried this may just come off like a throwaway project with Vince half-assing it. But after listening, I really understand this album and Vince as a whole now on a deeper level. That simplistic artwork is honestly a perfect allegory for this record. Vince's deadpan stare in black and white representing these traumatic memories and seeing this violence in his neighborhood. Self-titled could not have been a more appropriate title for this album. This is Vince Staples to an atomic scale. You get a look into his life, into his experiences. It is brief, it is introspective, there's some good songwriting, good production, and while some of it didn't quite captivate me like I was expecting it to, I am still eagerly awaiting whatever may be coming down the pipe, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm feeling a strong 7 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.